Here I have opened my VS Code and I'm going to add a boilerplate for HTML code, and I type an exclamation symbol, and the exclamation mark will activate the Emmet plugin, and if you press enter, then a boilerplate code will be generated. If you want to add a link tag, it's enough to write the name of the tag link and then press in enter. If you want to add a CSS link tag, then write link colon CSS and press enter. That will generate a CSS tag for you. Of course, you will have to customize the paths in case you have different or complicated paths to your CSS styles sheet. If you want to add a meta tag, then write meta colon UTF, and you will add a meta tag which has a preset char set for the UTF encoding. If you want to add any tag, it's usually enough to either write the first couple of letters of the name of the tag or to write the name of the tag, and Emmet plugin will generate the tag for you. Like here in this case, I've written mn or main and it generated a main tag for me. The same goes for the nav tag. You write the name nav and you press enter, and Emmet will generate a nav tag for you. If you want that nav tag to have an unordered list inside, then you use the greater than symbol to indicate that that nav tag has a child element, that is the unordered list element. If you want that unordered list inside the nav element to have list items, then you write the greater than symbol again, and you write nav greater than ul greater than li, which means the nav contains an unordered list that contain list items. If you want to specify the number of list items inside the unordered list, you write nav greater than ul greater than li multiplied by the number of items. For example, li multiplied by 5. If you want to add a CSS class to your element, then you write the name of the element, for example div, then you write dot the name of the CSS class you want to add. If you want to add an ID, you write the same, for example div dot the name of the class and sharp the name of the ID that you want to assign to that element. The order doesn't matter. You can write the name of the tag sharp the ID dot the name of the class. If you want to add an input field, for example a button, you can write imp, and then you can choose from the drop down from VS Code what type of input you want, for example button or email or password or whatever. You can also specify the attribute you want to add by specifying it inside a bracket. So you write the name of the tag, then you open a bracket, you type the attribute name and the value that it corresponds to, and then you close the bracket, and that's it. If you want to add a header, you write HDR. If you want to add a footer, you write FTR, and that's it. So if you want to add a select that is disabled by default, then you write select :D, which will show you a drop down from VS Code, and you choose that, and that will generate a select tag that is disabled. If you want to add a table that has a CSS class called custom-data, then you write table.custom-data and press enter. That will generate a table tag with the CSS class. If you want to generate, let's say 10 table rows, then you write tr multiplied by 10, and you press enter. That will generate 10 table rows tags for you. Just how awesome is all this? You want to add 5 table columns, then you write td multiplied by 5 and press enter. If you want to generate table rows and table columns at the same time, you write tr, for example, multiplied by 5, which means 5 rows, greater than td, which means table data, table columns, multiplied by 4. That will generate 5 table rows and 4 table columns. If you want to add custom styles to the rows and columns of your table, then you simply write tr, which means table row, multiplied by 5 as we did before, dot the name of the class of the CSS, which is custom-rows, greater than, which means it includes td, the table data, multiplied by 4 columns, dot cells, the name of the CSS class, and you press enter. If you want to add multiple CSS classes to your element, then you write the name of the element, dot the name of the first class, dot the name of the second class, dot, etc. If you want to add text content to your elements, then you write them inside curly braces. For example, if you want to add text to your p tag, then you write p greater than, you open curly braces, you write the text that you want, you close the curly braces. Plus, which means adjacent, anchor a, open curly braces, write something, close curly braces, and press enter. This will result in a paragraph that contains the text you want to find more. The word more is the text content of the anchor. So it is the name of the link, and of course you need to specify the link itself inside the href attribute. Suppose you want to add an unordered list that has a custom CSS class, and you want to add list items inside that have custom CSS classes that are numbered in ascending order, for example from 1 to 5. So you write ul.custom-ul, which is the name of the CSS class, greater than, which means they include the li, list items, dot the custom-li, and you add the $sign multiplied by the number of classes you want to add. This will result in an unordered list that has 5 list items, and each list item will have a custom CSS class numbered from 1 to 5. If you want to add a block of HTML tags, you can use the plus sign, which means the elements are adjacent to each other. For example, let's add a division that includes a paragraph that is adjacent to an unordered list that contains list items, 4 list items, for example. So in this case, we write div greater than p plus ul. The p plus ul means that the paragraph and the unordered lists are adjacent to each other, are on the same level. And the ul includes 4 list items. Here is a more complex example. I want to add a div that is adjacent to another div, and the second div contains a paragraph, and that paragraph contains a span and an emphasis. So the span plus em, which means span plus emphasis, are adjacent to each other, the same as the div and the other div are adjacent to each other. Now if I want to go up one level, then I use the caret symbol or the power symbol, and I write the name of the element that I want to add there. So for example, the block quote element will be adjacent to the paragraph element. So you see the span and the em elements are adjacent to each other, and the block quote is adjacent to the paragraph element. And I have 2 divs adjacent to each other. I can also group blocks of elements together using parentheses. For example, I want to create a div, and inside div I want there to be a header that contains an unordered list, which contains a list item, three list items, and each list item would contain an anchor. And all this is one group contained in parentheses, will be adjacent to a footer, which means plus footer. And that footer would contain a paragraph, for example. And that's it for this video. I hope you have learned something. It's impossible to go through all the shortcuts because it would take like 2 hours or 3 hours more, because there is a lot of shortcuts for everything, for CSS, for XML, etc. I highly recommend that you go through the documentation for that plugin if you need something specific from that. This was just an introduction video to Emmet, and basically you have enough knowledge to speed up your HTML coding significantly. So if you liked this video, again, share, like, and subscribe, and leave a comment if you have any questions, and see you in the next time.